It is such a pleasure to be back on the radio. How are you doing today? I guess I know the answer to that, but regardless, let's start the day with some optimism, shall we? Beautiful morning to you once again. My name is Sage Babalola, and you are listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. Happening right this very moment is Trends in the Paper. It happens every day from 7:40 to 8:30, where we have conversations about reports in the different newspapers. As always, we have the papers here with us, and we will spend the next, say, 40-50 minutes having a look at the reports that made the headlines in the papers. Again, Sage Babalola is my name. Mainland 98.3 FM is the station, and Trends in the Paper is what is happening at this very moment. Of course, for analysis, we are always joined by Fuad Sahid, who usually sheds light on these stories. Good morning to you, Fuad.
Good morning, Sage. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. So, like I said, we do have the papers here with us already. The Guardian is here, the Punch newspaper, Vanguard, and of course, The Nation. So, we're going to open today's conversation for Trends in the Paper by looking through the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Let's get straight into it. The top story, as seen here, Buhari for free poll. Not against any candidate, federal government replies El Rufai. So there are riders to this particular story. We see here El Rufai, people in Aso Rock working against Tinubu. Aisha Buhari shares El Rufai video, validates claim. APC national chairman NWC mum. Tinubu remains unstoppable in spite of Villa conspiracy, says Aliki. Act swiftly on El Rufai's comment, Kekemeke tax Adamu. So let's look further into this report before we get Fuad's perspective on the matter. What has been discussed in political circles in hushed tones, which was released through innuendos last week Thursday by the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, at a campaign rally in Abeokuta, was yesterday elevated to national discourse by Kaduna State Governor Malam Nasir El-Rufai. So basically, he had an interview and he said something that was quite similar to the claims that had been made by the presidential candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where he insinuated that there were some fifth columnists who were trying to truncate his political ambitions. So Fuad, all of these things come into light. It would seem like, should I say, the intra-party fracas in the APC is starting to manifest more and more with the insinuations that have been made by quite a number of people, and most recently the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai. If you read that report further, he says that there's some elements in the villa, according to him, who they had somebody for the primaries who lost, and then Asiwaju Bola Ahmed emerged, and because of that, they're doing everything that they can to make sure that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed does not succeed in the forthcoming election, also pointing to the Naira redesign and the fuel scarcity. How do we make sense of this? Would it be safe to assume that maybe all is not really well with the APC and their ideologies are not necessarily aligning at this time?
Well, we don't need to assume. It's crystal clear that all is not well. For a long time, immediately after the primaries, I've always said that, look, what the APC have done better than the PDP is to have been able to mask their own internal crisis. Unlike the PDP that just built the whole thing open, and then you have the G5 that keeps making statements and going to the public with it. But of course, so some of the analysis that we've got, some of the reports that we've got, have shown that the APC has its own internal issues. I think the battle is between the presidential candidate himself, his loyalists, and then you have the presidency and the president on one side. One thing that you have to really take from the Buhari government is that there seems to be the presidency that has that strength, that capacity to decide on a lot of issues. Again, when the later Bakari was still in charge as the chief of staff, everybody pointed fingers at him as the arrowhead of what can be called the presidency cabal. Those that take decisions. You remember that there was a time even the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, said that there were people controlling the president.
Yeah. That
there were people in charge of the presidency that were so powerful, and she alluded to the fact that there were actually elements in the presidency that were that powerful to take decisions even without the knowledge or have the capacity to influence decisions of the president. So if Nasir El-Rufai, he made that statement yesterday morning to the fact that, look, there were fixed columnists within the presidency, within the APC, that are hell-bent on, destroying the party and bringing it down. But, I think what Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu did last week Wednesday and what El-Rufai did yesterday, and of course confirmed again by the wife of the president who had to, retweet and share the video of El-Rufai, have come to show that all is not well within the APC. The internal crises are evident. It's clear that there are problems within, and we can only wait to see how they are going to be able to handle it. Just yesterday, Alhaji Lai Mohammed issued a statement, which you have just read, that, well, the commitment of the president is on ensuring a free and fair election. And that, look, if there were fixed columnists within the presidency or the government working against the APC, they are not officially aware of that, and that's not the major concern of the president now. So that's a statement that has come from the presidency, and I assume the president too. But the reality on ground has shown that the APC is only trying to patch up. There's a lot of cracks in their walls, and if they are not careful, the whole thing could cave in.
Well, like you said, I guess this is a case of watch and see. There's just about 24 days, I believe. We would have all the answers that we're looking for.
Okay. About 23 days.
Well, 23 days. So
23 days.
Yeah, so we'll get all the answers to these questions that we don't seem to understand. So it's on the front page of The Guardian if you'd like to read further. So let's move on. Page 7 of The Guardian newspaper. The headline: Ignore calls to boycott elections. IWA urges Indigbo. So let's look at that report very briefly. So the Igbo World Assembly, IWA, has called on Indigbo across the country to ignore calls to boycott the 2023 general elections. The umbrella body of Igbo organization across the world urged Indigbo to support the presidential candidate of the Labour Party and ensure the former governor wins the February 25th poll. So basically, the IWA is urging Indigbo to make sure that plans to, should I say, postpone the 2023 general elections should not be permitted, and they should all throw their weight behind Peter Obi. They say that they've, scrutinized all the presidential candidates, and they're quite certain that Peter Obi has all it takes to rule the nation. And I would actually like to reference, this notion that has circulated a lot, that the Southeasterners are not necessarily, supporting the presidential ambition of Peter Obi, with Charles Soludo, the governor, of Anambra State, saying Peter Obi does not necessarily have the structure to rule on a national level. But now we have, this Igbo group also asking the Indigbo to support Peter Obi because they believe very strongly in his, candidacy. What do you think, Fuad?
Well, I think we have to put it out there that no individual, whether a governor, whether a rich businessman, whether a group, can speak for an entire ethnic group. There are too many, statements, comments as we speak, from the governor to strong businessmen to politicians to different groups, who can say, "Oh, this is what the entire ethnic group should do." I agree with the IWA that people should not boycott the election, because the danger of boycotting an election is that even if it's just 10 people that comes out to vote on an election day, they're binding. So the votes will count, and that will be the decision that will be binding on everybody. So boycotting election would not work, because on that day there will be not just a number of persons that will come out to vote, and even if it's just 10 in the whole state, that 10 is a valid vote and it will be counted and assume that that's the vote for the entire state. So it doesn't even make any sense anyway to think of boycotting the election. So again, when it comes to ethnic groups throwing their weight behind Mr. Peter Obi and all of that, Afenifere had done it before. I think Ohanize Indigbo has also done that. This is also another group, they've observed and, taking their decisions on it. But again, we have to say it's a democracy. People have their choices. They have different reasons to choose whatever they want to choose. Luckily, we have 18 persons on the ballot at this time.
Yeah.
Yes, we have 4 frontline presidential candidates. But, it's so robust that we have 18 persons that any of them could become president. I think they are all well qualified within their own right. And so I think we just have to leave it to when Nigerians decide on February 25.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. And like I always say, this is the time to manage people's expectations.
All right. Well, page 7 of the Guardian has that story.
Yeah.
Expectations. All right.
So
thank you, Fuad. Yes. So page 7 of the Guardian has the story if you would like to have further understanding about it. So let's move on. Page 8 of the Guardian, the headline reads, Wike accuses police of supporting instigators of political violence in Rivers. Governor Nyesom Wike has said Rivers State government may be compelled to deploy its neighborhood watch safety corps to maintain law and order if Nigeria police continue to support political parties perpetrating violence in the state. Let me quote what he said so we don't take certain things out of context. He said, "This is what I want to tell the Nigeria Police Rivers State Command. You are the ones supporting them to disobey the law to cause violence. If you don't want to do your duty, let us know and I will release our neighborhood watch safety corps. If you don't do your work, we will take over your work from you. You cannot support people breaking the law. You know the truth of the matter. You are scared that they may transfer you. Your duty is not permanent anywhere. As long as you're a security man, you can be sent away any day." What is your take on this? The fact that, well, there have been many conversations around how, violence continue to ensue every political season. And then we've asked questions, how is it that these individuals, has been known for violence like that. So, the conversation, why is it that these people have been able to successfully perpetrate violence over and over and over again when we have security operatives? And, accusations that if the police or the security operatives are not, there's some, should I say, validity to Wike's accusation of the police force in Rivers State that they are supporting those who perpetrate violence, especially electoral violence.
Say because we are not on ground and we don't have a complete picture of what is happening other than the reports that we're getting from different sources. Yeah. I can't completely say whatever Wike is saying is valid. Again, when politicians speak, I try to be very careful to take it hook, line, and sinker, because again, you find that politicians will be the ones perpetrating something and they accuse the opposition of doing it. I think when it comes to violence, as far as Rivers State is concerned, I don't think we can exonerate any of the political parties, because it's almost across board. You have situations where campaign rallies are attacked, then you have counter attacks. And again, the way a manner of politicians speak gives a lead to some of these supporters to go out there and unleash mayhem on perceived political enemies. Now, on the statement of the police being complicit, well, I wouldn't say that is untrue, completely untrue, because again, we see situations where security officials take sides, and that of course calls to question again the kind of structure we run as far as policing is concerned in the country. For him to have mentioned that the neighborhood watch will take over the job of the police, I think is just a bit too boastful. He knows that they can't do that. They can't even carry the weapons that the police carry.
Yeah.
They are not authorized to do all of that. And so if he's accusing maybe the ruling party at the federal level of using the police, I'm just saying now, because again, if he's saying that they're going to transfer you, one would assume that he's probably pointing at
only the center can do that. Yeah.
But if he's now talking about the neighborhood watch, which he controls, are we saying he's also going to not interfere with whatever the neighborhood watch in the state will be doing to opposition or to keep the safety of the people? So when we talk about this issue of state policing, we always say that the biggest worry, as much as it is like the only option we have now to secure ourselves, the biggest worry is the attitude of the governors when we now have state police. How are they going to handle it? But again, as far as Rivers State is concerned, we can only appeal to politicians in Rivers State to behave themselves. All is, all top as we speak now. The politicians that are loyal to Atiku Abubakar in the PDP Rivers State are also all out to ensure that Wike does not succeed. As far as the opposition is concerned. So a call of the APC is also talking tough. I've listened to him. The APC is also ramping up their rallies. They are also trying to, they win the governorship seat. Magnus Abe is in the SDP. He's also a very strong politician. So Rivers has always been like that. It's always a hotbed when it comes to politics. But again, the appeal should go to politicians, to ensure that, this thing happens, without any form of violence. The violence that we're getting from Rivers State is becoming too much and worrying.
Right. Well, if you read further, not only did he accuse the police operatives of being complicit in violence or supporting those who perpetrate political violence, he took a swipe at Dakuku Peter Side, the former Director General of the Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. He described he described him as a political neophyte for daring him to name his preferred presidential candidate. Again, I would please like to quote him or read verbatim so that, again, we don't take anything out of context. He says, and I quote, "Shameless politician." Yeah, shameless politician. You had a position, you cannot help your people, yet you are coming out to open your mouth simply because I did not give you second term to be DG of NIMASA. You have the guts to tell me I should name my presidential candidate. Are we on the same level? Failure and success, are they the same? That's what he said. So, Fuad, you were going to say something.
Wike is just again. I want to. There's one thing about Rivers politics now. There's one thing I'm hoping to see. I actually want to see what Wike will become after May 29.
Yeah.
When he relinquishes power to whoever becomes governor in that state. I want to see him out of office. I want to see a Wike as a former governor. Whether he will still be this boastful, he will still be this arrogant with his statements and all of that. Whatever Peter Side did to him, I think he deserves it. There was a guy that was boastful before January. He told us that in January he was going to name his preferred candidate. The journalist asked him. He said, "No, I didn't give you a specific date, but in January,
he said
I'm going to name the preferred candidate." And
he said he did not say. We say it on camera now.
No. He said he was going to, of course. And he has been the most vocal. No, he has been the most vocal. And everything he goes to the press, he has live appearances everywhere. So he has called conferences. God knows how many press conferences he has called. To address issues that are not even important. So if he said he was going to name a successor, I think he should be honorable enough to name a preferred candidate. He should be honorable enough to keep to his word. And so if Peter Side is saying, "You do it now," since you posted that you're going to do it, I don't think that's about being a failure to have asked him that question. I also want to ask him, "Hey, Mr. Governor, you promised us, we are still expecting you to do that, even though I know you will never do anything close to that."
Okay. Thank you, Fuad. Page 8 of the Guardian newspaper is where you will find the full report. So let's double back to page 3 of the Guardian. But the headline, Atiku's government will consider Southeast for topmost position, says PCC DG. Again, this is more campaigning because everybody has been talking about, I will do this for this state, I will make them this or that. So basically, I don't know the numbering. Anyways, 2023, Atiku's government will consider Southeast for topmost position, says PCC DG. The Atiku Okowa Presidential Campaign Council has given further insight into the kind of administration the standard bearer of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, will run if sworn in as president on May of 2019. So basically, I think you spoke about this one time whilst you were analyzing a report that we read where you said that these politicians would say things that they believe would appease certain regions.
Depending on the audience they are addressing, they have different comments and statements and promises to give the audience. The Southeast wants the presidency. They want this presidential seat. He is offering them a juicy position. So it's left for the Southeast to believe him and take that. I think the Southeast want, their son to become president.
So give them top position. Give them good position.
Like what now? What can be better than the presidency in itself? The seat of the presidency.
They create another.
So you can't create. These politicians will promise heaven and earth. Just to get votes of the people. But I think Nigerians are wiser now. I think Nigerians can see through some of their statements. They will promise everything. There's nothing they will not promise. They can even tell you that he's going to rule for one time, even though we know that after that one time he will seek for a second time. So I think Atiku is just playing politics, which is normal. What is expected of him, depending on who is addressing at a particular time. He will always make these kinds of promises. But I think that the juicy position may not be attractive to Southeasterners at this time. I think I can tell from what I see almost.
Well, thank you very much. Let's move on to this headline here. Still on page 3. Nigeria not fighting corruption to impress anyone. Federal government replies Transparency International. This story here, federal government yesterday dismissed the recent Voter Perception Index, CPI. So basically, this came against the backdrop of reports that Nigeria scored 24 out of 100 points while ranked. So the country is basically 24 out of 100 with corruption. That's quite poor when it comes to it's not very reflective of, should I say, the efforts that the federal government claims to have put into fighting corruption. So the Nigerian government, they're not very comfortable with this particular report that has been put out by Transparency International, that you might say we're 24 out of 100. You're the one that knows the methodology that you use to reach all these conclusions that you reach, but this administration has done the very best that they can to minimize corruption in the country. This list that has been released, do you think that is accurate, or do you stand behind the federal government that they have done enough to fight corruption and they shouldn't be falling or going down when it comes to the list of corruption in countries?
No, of course I won't stand behind the federal government. That was a government that came in 2015 on the mantra of zero tolerance to corruption, and I'm sorry, the government has not done well with fighting. I'm not even sure they're even fighting corruption, because again, all of the things that we complain about today are still, the product of corrupt practices. Is it the oil sector that we have not been able to completely reform? Is it the subsidy regime? Is it the activities of the NNPC with importation of fuel? So this is a government that came. I think it was just more about sloganeering, to curry the favor of Nigerians and get votes. I mean, in 2016, they've not been able to do anything really about corruption. I think the height of it all for me, was when even former governors were pardoned. Former governors that have been jailed for corrupt practice.
Yeah.
How do you fight corruption and then pardon the few ones that we have been able to successfully prosecute and jail? That was the height for me. That look, a government that came on the mantra of change and zero tolerance to corruption would never encourage or pander to the wish of corrupt politicians, to the extent that because again, we have so many governors that we are prosecuting.
Yeah. And
somehow, through the grace of God, we're able to at least jail maybe one or two of them. And these are the two that we jailed, you pardon them again.
I mean, the
so
EFCC,
you ask yourself, what kind of fight against corruption is that?
Yeah, the EFCC actually spoke about this, I think sometime late last year, that we do our job, we get these people, we provide you with evidence, they're prosecuted and then released. Then so we're not encouraged to even catch this criminal, so to speak, because at the end of the day, we would expect the law to do what it's supposed to do. But no.
But that's what I'm saying. I look at the EFCC with everything they are trying to do. Like I told you, I think sometime last week, that look, our laws, there are a lot of loopholes, a lot of lacuna that these politicians lash on. Their lawyers are able to use technical grounds, to pass most of the cases. But somehow, the EFCC was able to do their job, prosecute, and eventually they were able to jail two governors. They are not even finished half of the time. This government that says they have zero tolerance to corruption, pardon them. And like I said, look at every sector. The corruption is still there. You have public officials still stealing money. You have politicians still doing whatever they like with public funds. The oil sector is still in complete chaos as we speak. There's no reform. Nobody is really account to anything. People just do whatever they want to do. And then, again, the government can live in denial, but the facts are there to see that as far as corruption is concerned, like every other thing they promise Nigeria, this government has failed. Even though I'm a bit wary and careful about information from some of these advocacy groups, global advocacy groups like Transparency International.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a bit wary about some of the statements and the data they release. But the reality is that this government, as far as corruption is concerned, has also failed.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fuad. So that's it for the Guardian newspaper, I believe. Oh, okay. Why we prioritize irrigation scheme by Buhari. So basically, we're working on agriculture, as you know, trying to diversify the economy, walk away from our over reliance on crude oil. So he's talking about how the irrigation scheme, the country would help boost agriculture, of course, create employment and improve the economy overall. So let's just hope that this is not another, what do they call this? Is it White Elephant Project, or there's a term for it where you just start something and you don't finish it. So let's just hope that this serves its purpose at the end of the day, and it doesn't become a money pit. We're just dumping money on the irrigation scheme and we don't see anything come out of it. Service downtime deepens. Oh yeah, Ford, you like to?
No, it's okay. It's all right. You said it all. We just hope that it's not one of those projects that, what I call motion without movement. We talk about it to put all of the things in place, and we don't see any results at the end of the day. So
right. Okay.
It's not one of those projects.
Yeah. Okay. So service downtime deepens consumer woes as internet banking fails. I think this still speaks to the whole controversy or crisis that has followed the scarcity of cash and the promotion of e-payment, or should I say the cashless policy. Well, you're asking people to pay, and the internet banking is not working. So service downtime deepens consumer woes as internet banking fails. This is on page 6. The riders, POS merchants fleece customers with high charges. Banks get 30 million naira new notes for 200 branches ration currency. Don't grant further extension, Atiku tells CBN. Moody downgrade, notes scarcity may hurt economy. So the writers to the story once again already gives direction to this particular conversation. People have complained about the POS merchants, charging extremely high amount for people who want to withdraw 1,000 for 5,000 naira now, I believe. That's how, depending on where you are. And also, the CBN is claiming that 30 million naira new banknote has been disbursed to 200 branches, and yet there is scarcity. So I think this still takes us back to the conversation of what banks did you give this money to, so that we can talk to these banks directly and they can explain why, despite the claim by the CBN that they have given them the money, the commercial banks are still claiming that they are short of the new naira notes. We don't have enough information to even expand on this particular conversation and ask the commercial banks the right questions. Fuad.
Well, again, this is, I just think this is lack of proper thinking, again, still on the part of the CBN. I said it yesterday. When you come up with an idea or a policy and you are trying to fight something, you have to be careful. You are trying to solve a problem. You have to be careful not to create a bigger problem. As we speak now, the CBN seems to be completely writing deadline. You can still bring the old note. I feel that automatically tells you that the entire purpose of that policy has been defeated. Because if people can still bring the old note to the bank after February 10th, so what is the essence of the whole exercise in the first place? I think some of the information we are getting from the banks, we have a number of our colleagues who visited the banks. I don't know what they want Nigerians to do now, ordinary Nigerians. In fact, there are people who can't even go to work now because there's no cash to pay commercial bus drivers. There's no cash available anywhere. And how do you do it? How do you want to withdraw 10,000 and you're told to pay extra 1,000 naira? And like I told you the last time I withdrew 10,000 naira on the old currency, not even the new one.
Yeah.
I had to pay 600 naira to get 10,000 of the old currency. And I asked the woman, I said, look, if I tell you what it took me to even get this little amount from the bank, you understand? I think one of our staff who went to the bank, he wanted to withdraw maybe 5,000 naira. He said in the bank they were rationing it. I think they gave him 2,000 naira of the old note. So
anyways,
I think they gave him 100 naira. 100 naira of the old note. He wanted 5,000. They gave him 2,000 naira. So the people I pity in all of this confusion. I'm looking at the rural dwellers, the market women in the rural areas.
There are hardly any banks.
There are no banks in their areas. The POS operators, God knows how much they'll be charging them now. They need this little cash to live their normal lives and do their daily transactions, do petty trading and all of that. How they want to? Because for people who say they are going to cope, I see a lot of people who live in urban areas who think that everything is about politics and they say, oh, we should just allow the thing to work. We are going to cope. Yes, you are in the urban area. You can always make your way through these things. You can do transfers, do transactions. But I'm looking at the rural dwellers where, the unbanked Nigerians who don't have access to the banks, who rely on these mobile money guys, POS operators who are now charging them. And a lot of the POS guys don't even have the cash. That's even the problem again.
Yeah. They don't even have for them to charge you. At least if they have, they will charge you. But they don't even have.
They have, they will charge. They don't.
They don't
a lot of them don't even have the cash.
Right. All right. Well, let's move away from the Guardian newspaper. Let's talk about the reports on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Please, this is trends in the papers. We're just having conversations around the headlines. By 8:40, we'll be back to give you an opportunity to call in and contribute. So this is not the time for you to contribute. When it's time, we'll let you know and we'll open the phone lines. Thank you.
It's open mic. Right?
Yes, it is open mic. So you would have enough time to tell us what you feel about these headlines. Don't worry. All right, let's go to the Punch newspaper. At the front page, or still talking about the crises that have trailed the Naira redesign and the scarcity of the note. Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina border residents trade in CFA. Riders to the story: customers without new Naira note must pay in CFA. Traders insist. Banking halls empty. LCCI says Naira swap poor, affecting businesses. ICPC arrests currency hawker. Angry youth protest in Ekiti and Delta. So, Fuad, traders have decided to look for an alternative, and they're now asking that trade be done in CFA, especially states that border along, like I think Niger Republic and what have you. Yeah. So let me read this. Residents of border communities in states including Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, Adamawa and Kwara have opted for the CFA franc following the scarcity of the new Naira note across the country. So they're saying if we're unable to get the new Naira notes, we might as well just trade in CFA. At least it will be some sort of store or value for us, and when the new note is in circulation, we'll just find a way to swap it. Fuad, we've started opting to use the currency of other countries because we don't have access to our own currency, and they're telling people, if you want to buy something from my shop, go and look for CFA if you don't have the new Naira notes. This is what we have become, Fuad. Well, what do you have to say about this? I mean, I do know what you have to say, but please.
I read the report this morning. I was wondering that how do we resolve this crisis now? How do we resolve the crisis? Because when I thought that, okay, maybe it was going to take maybe 1 or 2 days, the CBN was going to be able to resolve these issues with commercial banks, the new notes will be available. But I think the situation still persists. I think I was around Oshodi yesterday, and I looked at the queue in one ATM spot. I mean, I like, really? It's almost, I don't say that, I've not seen a situation like this before. Where people have to queue to get their own money. Where the banks will tell you that the notes are not even available. You can have downtime, they tell you the server is down, we can't pay you now, and all of those kind of things. But for the bank to tell you the notes are not available. In fact, the problem now is not just even the new notes. There's no cash. Even the notes are not available. So you have banks now rationally, the little they have. And so people are already coming up with a lot of conspiracy theory. And would you blame anybody for thinking that there might be some sinister motives behind all of these things? And the timing. El-Rufai talked about the timing yesterday. We can say, he's just a politician, he's trying to play politics with the whole thing and all of that. But the timing, yes, the presidency, the CBN, they come up with the excuse that, they are trying to use it to fight banditry, kidnapping for people who have ransom, or politicians who have kept money to buy votes, and all of those things, illicit funds and all. Yes, we agree. Good policy. But at least one would have thought that they will also think of saboteurs. They will also think of the peculiarities of Nigeria to frustrate the process and put machinery in place to ensure it doesn't happen. But here we are now. Again, we are talking now because it's easy for us. We live in your bank area. I'm still saying that, look, I worry for people in the rural area, the ordinary market women. I know these are guys who live on daily source of income. If you don't trade on a particular day, it's as good as. Look at the woman. You saw a video. I'm sure it's trended.
Yeah, I did. I saw that.
She could not go to school because she didn't have money. She was talking almost half naked. And so everywhere, I said, look, it's possible. There are people that, look, if they don't come out to do their petty trading every day, there's nothing for them to eat. The family will go hungry. Those are the people that I'm worried for. I'm not interested in the politics of all of you. We are not all politicians. It's not everybody that is bothered about the politics or the shenanigans in government. People just want to live their normal life. Now they are caught in the web of the presidency, the CBN, the politicians, the CPDP, and it's completely frustrating and tiring. Amidst all of this, now people have to still queue for fuel. And that once nobody telling us anything as we speak. Not that they are not telling us anything. Nobody's telling us any useful thing. Why we queuing for fuel at this time?
People have resigned to their fate. They just believe. I mean, that's one thing that Nigerians have: our ability to adapt to whatever situation is thrown at us. We complain, but then at a point we just adjust to it, like nothing is wrong.
See, I've been buying fuel now for the past many weeks now at 300 naira per liter because I can't afford to go and stay 4 or 5 hours in a filling station. The filling stations that are selling for 300, 350, you just go in and buy and leave. No queues at all. And I've been doing that because I need to run my business. I need to be available to do my daily duties and all of that. I can't just go there 4 or 5 hours to go and queue for fuel. It's going to work for me. And like I just mentioned, nobody is telling us any reasonable thing as to why the situation persists in the petroleum sector. Nobody. They've just been tossing us around. The 14-man panel, I don't know whether it has been inaugurated, but I still tell you that it's just pure hypocrisy. There's no need to set up any panel to address this issue or solve this problem.
Right.
And that's why, yes, I agree that there's a sabotage against the Nigerian people. There's a conspiracy to make Nigerians suffer.
All right, Fuad, let's move away from this very briefly. That is on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Page 2 and 21 has the full story if you want to check that out. So let's go to another headline here. Amosun Abiodun clash over performance abandoned projects. We do have the story here. The former governor of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun, led the campaign on Wednesday of the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress in the state, B or Tegbeye, ahead of the March 11, 2023 election. Well, Amosun said that he feels sad anytime he looks at the current state of Ogun State because he believes that Dapo Abiodun hasn't, exactly done a great job in maintaining what he did during his time. He also made reference to a school that he built for, I think, 830 million, and Amosun Dapo Abiodun claims to have rehabilitated it with, I think, 3 billion naira. He's spoken about certain discrepancies and what have you. So, would you do like a mini juxtaposing of their administration, Ibikunle Amosun, Dapo Abiodun? Do you really think that Ogun State went, it is a downward spiral? I mean, I know that with regards to insecurity, it's not been very nice in Ogun State. There's been a report of, ritual killing and all that, like kidnapping and cult clashes and what have you. But is the situation really as bad as Ibikunle Amosun is painting the picture that after his tenure, it was a downward spiral under the administration of Dapo Abiodun?
Ibikunle Amosun was governor for 8 years. I'll tell you that yes, he did a number of projects, but if I'm going to rate him, I'm still going to rate him below 40% in terms of performance index. Yes, he did a number of projects. Some of them I consider as white elephant projects unnecessary, but I have to say that one of the things that I would agree with is, I don't know why this governor had to do that, is the deliberate abandonment of a lot of projects that were started by Ibikunle Amosun. I always think that when people come into government, they understand that no matter what I hand over to you. Sorry?
I said, is continuum. You're supposed to finish or continue where your predecessor started.
We are supposed to go on. These projects are not projects, they are projects for the people. And you just see that the new governor comes in because he has 1 or 2 issues to be done. He's handing over, he's leaving, they just abandon those projects. I always feel that these are supposed to be what you call picking for a new governor. You look at what your predecessor was doing and not completed, you could complete them and move on with them. I must say that, look, Abiodun, yes, dropped the level of government again. We are talking about the government of 40% or maybe 30%. And then you have this one that if I'm going to rate, I'll put him at 20%. And that's one thing about Ogun State. People always say they are not even tapping from the opportunities of people living in Ogun State and working in Lagos. That proximity to Lagos, they are not even tapping into it. I can tell you that there are places in Ogun State, border areas of Lagos and Ogun State, that the way you get to the end of Lagos State, the next thing that will tell you that you are in Ogun State is the bad road.
Yeah.
There's the way you are driving on the road from Lagos. By the time you get to some area, the only thing I will already tell you that, I've left Lagos for Ogun State is the bad road. The road will just change to a bad one. And it's across there. Look at the role of Ife local government, for example. Where are the roads? Go to Mowe, and so the 2 governors they've not performed well anyway. They've not performed above board. But the reality is that I agree with Amosun that that Abiodun dropped the level of governance as Ogun State is concerned. And in fact, I'm wondering where it's going to get the second time from. But again, it's about politics and the ability to, get the votes out. But honestly, in terms of performance, I'm going to rate about 20%.
Well, the Ogun State government actually reacted. It says that, I'm quoting now, as a governor, this is Dako Abiodun, responding to Amosu. He says, as a governor, he promised to do everything and did virtually nothing. He abandoned most of them after claiming to have paid 100% for them. We are known as a promise-keeping administration. We promised only what we could do and did all that was promised. This is the response. They say they did everything they could. That, of course, his predecessor claimed to have paid 100% for some of these projects. And at the end of the day, they realized that he did not, in fact, pay for these projects at all. Like he just said he would do them, maybe started and stopped it. So you're more or less pushing your own deficiencies onto me. That's more or less like an interpretation for this response. Like, so why didn't you finish the projects, or why didn't you pay like you said you did or you were going to for the project? So don't make me take responsibility for things that you said you were going to do and you did not do. But I think you've answered that well, it's continuum. If your predecessor didn't finish it, you as a successor, nothing stops you from finishing the projects. But it's okay. So page 20 of the Punch newspaper has this report. Let's still stay on page 20. There's another headline here: sabotage, Tinubu campaigners back El-Rufai, Minister defends Buhari. I think we've spoken about this, but the federal government has dismissed claims by the Kaduna State governor that some elements in the presidential villa are working against the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Lai Mohammed was the one who actually responded to this. Like you said, we don't know anything about this, at least not officially, so we don't know where these are claims coming from. But then again, with all the many statements that we have seen coming out that there is no synergy in the APC, and you've also said it, let's wait 23 days from now, we would really see if there's synergy when the result of the election is announced. Anyways, you see this report here, page 20 of the Punch newspaper. So let's go back to page 4 of the Punch newspaper. The headline, Anambra gunmen kill teenager, burn 1,240 INEC materials. That is the story here. One would think that as we're drawing closer to the election, we would get a handle on this situation. But let's see this here. Let me read the story. Some yet to be identified assailants have attacked the office of the Commission at Ojoto in the Indemili South local government area of Anambra State. The hoodlum also attacked the Inobi police station and a residential building at the station. They were said to have attacked the police station. They burnt the INEC office. They also killed a teenager at the police station, and there was also a female who sustained injuries. Although the Anambra Police Command said that they've reinforced securities, they damaged quite a number of things, ballot boxes and what have you, but they were not sensitive materials. And they in fact said that the PVCs were kept in a fireproof container. So PVCs were not affected, but furniture and other things were affected. I believe this is like the third attack in Anambra State so far. So yeah. So this was very coordinated for us because they attacked the police station that was close to the INEC office. So it would be difficult for there to be a quick response, because the police officers that are supposed to respond to that attack have also been attacked by the hoodlums, and then they set the building ablaze. But we can maybe applaud the initiative, of the INEC office in Anambra for keeping the PVCs in a fireproof box. So according to them, they didn't lose any PVCs or nothing. It was just furniture, certain machines and what have you. But still, it's still not okay that INEC offices are still getting attacked and getting burned, and we're still seeing cases of infernos of INEC offices. Afua, do you think that do you still should I say stand behind this INEC's confidence, this German confidence, so to speak, that regardless of all this, we're still on top of the situation?
See, we're hoping to have a free, fair and credible election, and we have this level of insecurity. This is not limited to Anambra State. Of course, the reports, we've always reviewed the reports as they come. We have fuel scarcity. The queues are not thinning out. The queues are even getting longer. Although there's a report in the paper that Abuja is doing better now because they got in enough supply in Abuja. So you ask yourself, who is picking and choosing where to supply or not to supply, or tinkering with supply and the demand process, But the reality is that the queues are still there. People are buying, petroleum at exorbitant prices, and the queues are there. You have naira scarcity. There's no cash anywhere. There's still so much confusion about the change of the currency, the validity of the old notes, access to new notes, and all of that. And in the midst of that confusion and chaos, we are talking about a crispy, fair, credible election. How is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? God forbid this INEC that was attacked. Just imagine that, ad hoc staff, youth corps members, or people were there at that time. They're going to kill them. And we said that, look, we are not. Just imagine the movement of people and materials before the election, a day or 2 days to the election. If you have followed the election, you know what I'm talking about. The way they move materials, you have other staff. Sometimes some of them will sleep at the INEC office to be able to move early in the morning to deploy materials and all of that. Just imagine that was the situation, and then people attack them and kill them. And that's why I say, look, for us to have a free, fair, credible election, and if we are going to take President Muhammadu Buhari serious, that indeed he wants a free, fair, credible, and violence-free transition, and indeed he wants the election to hold, he needs to assure Nigerians. And the only assurance is to ensure that he immediately rolls on his sleeves to tackle this level of insecurity that we have. Special operations of the military and the army and the police, he needs to do something now. We still have the time. It's about 23 days to election. All of these things can be cleared up and assurances can get to Nigerians in these few days that we have. But this situation, I have my fear say, if this situation persists, I doubt that we are going to be able to hold the election.
Right. Okay, very briefly, let's look at this last report here. Across all the other papers, the reports are is the same thing. So, but let's look at this one. Obi Kwakwanso won't step down for Atiku. It would not step down for their counterpart in the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. I think that's Peter Obi and Arabi or anybody. Is there anything we can really draw out of this statement by Atiku Abubakar and the response by the?
No, at this time, I don't see how any of either of Kwakwanso or being stepped down. I think that anybody is going to step down for anybody. The only one that could happen is when we have a runoff. When because again there are predictions that we could for the first time have a runoff election. We may not be able to choose a president at the first ballot. So I'm thinking that we may see alliances as we go into a second ballot. You may see people collapsing their structure to support those that will be on the second ballot. But for the first ballot, I don't think anybody's going to step down for anybody. It's going to be, you go out there, test your strength, see what the results will be. And then maybe on the second ballot, we may now begin to see people collapsing structures or even urging their supporters.
All right.
Go for those that will be on the second ballot. Yeah.
All right. Well, we actually have to go. The report across the other papers are the same. Vanguard talks about El Rufai's statement, the hardship with the Naira redesign. We also have... allow uniformity in salaries, workers' allowances, Akeredolu to Buhari. The Nation is also the same thing. El Rufai, elements in government working against Tinubu, gunmen burn INEC offices, and worsening Naira scarcity hurts daily living businesses. So I think those are like the prominent stories across all the papers. Thank you very much for being here, Fuad. Don't worry, by 8:40 we'll be right back. Open the phone lines. It's open mic Thursday, so that means you can pick any of the